Good afternoon. Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ. We're here the third Thursday each month with Washington County Public Schools to talk about our school system, the people in it, and our impact on the community. And in this case today, we have a couple of things to talk about to get ready to get back to school. Not that we want to think in those terms as we do the show in mid-January or in mid-July, but there is just so much to prepare for a new school year, and we want you as parents, grandparents, and the community to know some of these things. Today's show is sponsored by Citizen Corps of Washington County, providing countywide opportunities for citizens to implement emergency preparedness practices at their homes and businesses. My guest today, Janice Howells, is our coordinator of school health for Washington County Public Schools. Barb Scotto, an old hand at the show, not old, but an old hand at the show, supervisor of transportation. And I welcome Kandi, Shirey, who is part of the team now at Boonesboro Elementary after spending a number of good, solid years at Kandi Elementary School, among other places. Boy, you're a veteran.
I am.
You've been at this a little while. We're going to start, though. We have very specific things to talk about with very specific folks. But, Barb, I want you to start, and we'll do it at the end of the show, too. We're looking for bus drivers, and we're simply going to carve out a minute, start and finish, about getting folks' attention on that subject.
Thank you, Will. We are actively hiring bus drivers, substitutes, full-time bus drivers. We have routes available for people to get certified and accept as their own. And we will be holding a transportation job fair on Thursday, July 23rd at 820 Commonwealth Avenue at the Transportation Department in the auditorium. It's going to be from 2 o'clock until 6 in the evening. Go online to the WCPS website and fill out an online application, or you can come to the job fair and fill out the application, get some assistance with that, and get an on-site interview the day of the fair. And we will get the acceptable candidates into a class immediately after that fair happens.
Okay. Sell that. Give me 30 seconds of selling that position to the community.
A school bus driver's position is in a lot of ways kind of a dream job. As parents, you can be on the same schedule with your students, and when they're off, you're off. You have a split day, and there's a lot of positives to that because you can manage your house or do another part-time job or do the hobbies and things that you have in between, but work morning and afternoon. It's a great pay for substitutes. It's $17 an hour for part-time work. As a regular employee, when you have a route that you call your own, it's $15.37 an hour with sick leave, personal leave, 16 paid holidays, 10 months out of the year, and you get your summers off. What's not to like?
Plus, a great department to work for, too.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll come back to you, Barb, on several counts. Kandi, Kandi's here to talk about registering kids for school.
Yes.
Whether they're new to the school system, youngsters coming in, if they've been local residents or if they've moved into the county. Talk about, you've registered God knows how many kids over the years.
I have.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Talk about the process. What do folks need to know when they come in the building?
Well, first, it's very important for parents to know that we don't need every document when you first come in. So if you are waiting to enroll, waiting to have those doctor's appointments or those immunization records, come on into the school anyway. Start the enrollment process. We need your child's birth certificate, their social security number. We need your photo ID, your proof of residency, which is typically a utility bill tied to your home in the form of a power bill, water bill, mortgage or lease agreement. Come on into the school, you fill out the enrollment forms. We can get that process started, get them in the system. Then all of your health forms that are due, we like to have them by the first day of school so you can start making your appointments. But the sooner you come in to register, the sooner we can start including your child on our mailings that go home, on our back to school nights, on our kindergarten screenings, when orientation is. So the sooner the better.
What's the most missed item on the checklist when folks come in?
It is typically the immunizations, the health
okay.
records, because some children haven't been for their 5-year checkup yet, or if they have been for their 5-year checkup, the forms haven't been filled out. So typically when they come in, we give them the forms, and they have to take them back to the doctor to get them complete, and then turn them back in to us.
We urge folks, at least we do one by one, that if they have a question, for instance, about their residency and which school, just simply which school their child or their children will be attending, we advise them to call ahead. Do you get folks who simply walk in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's okay too. I mean, that's why we're there in the summer. We're there to take enrollments and to help parents out. So we are there Monday through Thursday. School hours vary, so I would give the school a call just to find out what their hours are. Most of us are working 6 to 4:30. So Monday through Thursday, just come on in, bring the documents, we'll get you started. If you're at the wrong school, that's okay. We'll get you in the right direction.
Does that happen?
It happens sometimes. They think because of the way the routes are laid out, that their road is closer to a certain school, so that must be the school that they attend. But then, in looking it up, it actually could be another school instead.
Right. What do they, at where you've been and where you are now, what do they walk away with? And obviously that's going to vary from school to school, but I mean, are they taking home the Boonesboro Elementary packet of stuff?
Really, we don't give too much out at this time.
Okay.
There's a school supply list that's given out, but we don't really have bus information at this point. We have a back to school night, but typically most administrators will want to do a welcome letter that go to every child. So if you're registered, you're already in our system, you'll get that letter that tells you everything that you need to know.
Okay, I'm going to be a little selfish on this. When they come in, and you and I have had this conversation over and over, if they don't, they should get you all of their contact information, whether for them directly, for anybody else in their world, whoever that might be, who might come into play for notifications, because it just makes it so much easier than after the fact having them call you, either you call me or they call me and say, listen, I thought we were signed up for this notification and we didn't get it, and then we look and it's not in the child's file. So that's a good start, no matter whether it's your school or any other. Get as much contact information in the file right off the bat.
I agree.
And then they're ready to go. And that, we give them, and this is another show and another time, but we also give them opportunities to manage their own information with portals now that they can register and get in and note who's getting what, which numbers, which email addresses, and how they're getting it. So that's an important thing more often than not these days. That's what's been less perfect. Where folks have called us and said, well, I didn't know about this, and I know you've been much more active than some. And that's just been a priority to make sure that your school community has their information up to date. That way they get your newsletter. They get all of our notifications, of the more serious nature, whether it's school closings, delays, that sort of thing. Not that we'll have any this year, of course, Barb.
We'll do our best.
holding you responsible. So anyway, do the checklist one more time. So when folks call,
when they call and say, what do I need?
Right.
Off the bat, we need birth certificate, we need a social security number, we need photo ID of the person enrolling. If there are any custody papers that are involved, of course, bring those with you. We need proof of residency, which that is always the one that confuses people a little bit. They think a phone bill is what will work. It has to be a utility tied to the home, so your water bill, your power bill, anything in that nature, your mortgage lease agreement. And then when you come in, we have some enrollment forms for you, which of course gather all that contact information, your email addresses, your cell phone numbers, anyone else that we could contact if we have any questions whatsoever. And then we'll give you the health forms when we come in. If you happen to have a copy of your health forms already, that's great. We'll make copies of them. If not, we'll give you the forms when you come in.
Okay, if Aunt Bonnie brings the child in, how complicated can it get? How much of an issue is that?
Typically, that refers back to a custody issue.
Sure.
So if Aunt Bonnie is just coming in to enroll because parents are at work, we can give Aunt Bonnie the packet, the enrollment packet, to take to the birth parent. But whoever has custody of that child has to be the one that enrolls them.
Okay. So that eliminates the complication then.
Absolutely.
And then it's on the family. Excellent. If you're just joining us, this is Lunchtime Live on WJEJ. I've been talking with Kandi Shirey from Boonesboro Elementary School about the registration, the enrollment process. Barb Scotto is here as Supervisor of Transportation, and Janice Howells, our Coordinator of School Health. Today's show sponsored by Citizen Corps of Washington County. Janice, we've mentioned it a couple of times about needed immunizations, needed vaccinations. Give me the overview of that.
Well, every student, the state requires for students to attend school that they have certain immunizations. Some of them are dependent on their age. This year, there are some new requirements required for attending school, targeted to kindergarten and 7th grade.
Okay. And that would be incoming kindergartners and incoming 7th graders.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what are those changes? This fascinates the heck out of me because now we're going into like heavy-duty medical names, and these are great. Me calling out meningococcal vaccines and things like that makes for a great notification. Go.
That's right. Since you mentioned meningococcal, that is for 7th grade. Meningococcal, a dose of meningococcal, which is the meningitis vaccination, and a dose of Tdap, which is has tetanus, has diphtheria, and pertussis. It's a booster that has more of the tetanus in it. When children are young, they get the DTaP series of vaccinations, but the Tdap is more of a booster at this older age. And then for kindergarten, now 2 varicellas or chickenpox vaccinations are required.
Okay, we had some information. I had information that you gave me regarding recommended locations to get the vaccinations done. Some families just don't have the knowledge, the savvy in order to get around the community, may not have a solidified family provider, that sort of thing. Where are the different places that someone can go, that families can go to get the vaccinations done?
Well, of course, if they have a healthcare provider, they can make an appointment, say that they just need their immunizations, and make an appointment through their healthcare provider. The health department has an immunization clinic, so they can call the health department and make an appointment. And also, we have discovered that the CVS Minute Clinic on East Wilson Boulevard provides immunizations. No appointments are necessary there. And Walmart provides these immunizations. No appointment is necessary. The health department, you do need an appointment.
Okay. The most important thing is, and we have specific changes for incoming kindergartners and 7th graders, but the most important thing, though, is every student has to have sort of a clean bill of vaccinations, as it were, before they go into school.
That is correct. Any new student enrolling in our school system, we need to have a copy of their immunizations to make sure that they meet all the regulations for the state of Maryland. Perhaps there's a student that's just moved here from Ohio.
Right.
Ohio's immunization requirements could be slightly different than Maryland, so we need to have every student's immunization record and check to make sure that they meet the Maryland requirements prior to school starting, because there is an exclusion from school that can result if students don't have the immunizations that are required.
Right. Well, we've put in a good faith effort, and there's more to come. It really is. It's a challenge because I think, whether they're new or certainly, long-term residents, there's just a segment of the population that isn't aware of the guidelines, of the requirements, and we're trying to get everybody's attention because we're certainly not in the business of excluding kids from school. And if that's the reason, they certainly have opportunities to get out and get this done over the course of the summer. That's why we're trying to get everybody's attention.
Right.
Everybody's attention right now.
We have started back in February, actually, with communication out to specifically this large 2 grades that have the new requirements.
If anybody has questions, I don't want to send a flood of phone calls to you. If they would call individual schools, that same information would be available.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay. And you're saying that if somebody's coming into the system from anywhere else in Maryland, the requirements aren't going to change. It's just if they're coming from another state, there may be a difference in the immunization requirements.
That is correct.
Okay.
And there's also a good chance that a lot of our students do have these required immunizations. However, the schools don't have the documentation because these new immunizations have been recommended for a couple of years. And physicians have been immunizing these children. But when the immunizations take place, the parents don't always get a copy of that updated immunization record, or even if they do, to give it to their school so that they have a more accurate, up-to-date, medical information on their students. So we found this out last year that there are a lot of students that probably are vaccinated, but we just don't have that documentation. So I encourage parents to pull their records and look them over, or call to review them over the phone,
Okay.
or send them in, because that's probably we have a lot that are outstanding right now, but I'm sure more than half of them, the students do have that vaccination. We just don't have that documentation.
We just need to get the
and we
paperwork
need
into
it.
the school.
Mhm,
Right. Do your phone number for anybody who has questions.
It's 301.
Let me understand this. Are you zoning out on your own office phone number?
I don't
Maybe
call,
we
I don't
don't
call
want to give your
myself.
number out.
I don't call myself.
You're actually now going to give my number, so I take these calls. This is actually a ploy on your part. Yeah, you don't call your own number. That's right.
301-766-8723.
8723. I'm trying to think what's not in the system that doesn't start with 301-766. And once again, the last four digits, just so you remember them more than anybody else.
8723.
Okay. Janice Howells is our coordinator of school health. There's a lot more in her jurisdiction, but we certainly wanted to focus in kind of a back-to-school bent with the immunizations, required vaccinations for kids, not only existing kids in the system, but for those who are coming into the system. You're listening to Lunchtime Live, today's show brought to you by Citizen Corps of Washington County. We'll give a quick mention now, and we'll do it with their sponsorship next month. Citizens Emergency Preparedness Day already scheduled. It's Saturday, September 19th from 10 to 2 at Lowe's on Basil Boulevard. Okay, Barb. Transportation location change forms. I actually had folks give me feedback last night that they were glad to get a little TLC because we sent people are so goofy. We sent out a notification last night just as a reminder. And what is a transportation location change form?
I actually love that acronym because it's perfect for the situation, because it really is about providing that tender, loving care to make sure that your student gets to the right place in the afternoon. And of course, wherever we go to bus stops, if children are there, we're typically going to pick them up. But delivering them from home is our challenge. And it's important that we have all of those forms on record. So let me explain that TLC. If your student is going to walk out your front door and go to the bus stop assigned to your home, you don't need to do anything except eventually look up your bus stop information online. But if your student is going to go to a care provider or any other location other than your home address, then the transportation location change form needs to be completed and faxed or emailed into the transportation office.
Every year.
Every year. We cannot assume, especially with kids migrating from elementary to middle to high, whatever the case might be, we need a new form every year. So those forms can be located on the WCPS website under Transportation Department. Go to Parents and Students or to the Transportation Department, and there is a link there for the form. So those need to be in sooner than later, because as we plan routes, we include those stops in the routes that are already existing. We make sure that those students are added into those rosters. If the last date right now for guaranteeing and we have to put this out there, guaranteeing that your service to or from a different location is going to happen on the first day of school. Those forms need to be in our office by August the 7th. Any forms that we get after that time will be processed in the order that we get them, because they come in droves in August. And we just, even working 12, 14 hours a day, we can't process them fast enough. So I really encourage all of you, think about the provisions that you're making for your children. Go ahead and make that form available to us right now so that we can get them routed in. We're going to launch our e-link. That's an opportunity for you to go online and look at your bus information. We're going to launch that on August the 10th. The e-link will be up and available for you to go in and plug in your address and identify what bus and the stop, bus number and stop time and stop location for your student. If for any reason it gives you multiple locations, or it says transportation not available, that's when you would need to call our department, or call your child's school, because they have the same information, they have the routes, they have access to the e-link, and most of those great secretaries like Kandi can help you just as much as we can.
There's a finish to the process on each form, though, which is that it's not effective until you guys contact the parent and the household.
That is correct. The only way that transportation is guaranteed to be in place is, in most cases, we will either email or fax, or by the same fashion that we receive the form, back to the parent if we have that email address. Otherwise, it's going to be put into the U.S. mail. So you either have to have a hard copy back in your hand that's signed by our department, or you have to have had a phone call from us or the school saying that that transportation is put into place. So especially down to those last days, and going to back to school nights, if you submit a form that late, you cannot assume in any way that transportation will be put into place the next day. It's going to be up to 10 working days that it will take for that to be arranged.
I want you, and this is not woe is us. I want you to characterize like the last several weeks of the summer in the transportation department. I don't think folks in the system appreciate how intense it gets in there in preparing for a school year.
Well, lately I feel like it's intense every day.
Yeah.
There is so much to do in so little time. I hate to coin the phrase, but the last weeks in transportation are they're very hard to describe, and I totally understand that everybody kind of goes into letdown mode, vacation mode. I'm going to just not think about this until, the week before school starts. But if you can imagine, just let's take a figure, 20,000 people that decide, I want to share all of my information. I want to inquire about my child's bus. I want to now take a look at this and realize that, wow, my elementary student who moved to middle school this year is now not eligible for transportation service because their distance to travel to school is greater than a mile or under a mile and a half, and they don't get bus service as a middle school student. Sometimes that's very surprising to people. So if you think of 20,000 people waiting until the week before school to really identify all of those concerns, ask themselves all those questions, and that all goes down into that big wide open funnel into a little tiny tip in our department. and it's overwhelming.
How many forms? How many folks actually need the TLC?
By the end of last year, and the TLCs come in throughout the school year
Sure.
as people's circumstances change.
Exactly.
But the bulk of them come in. We'll get 300 or 400 over the summer. We probably have close to that many right now. But then all of a sudden in August, in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, we'll get 900 forms.
Right.
And when you think about that, we have to look at each one of them individually. We have to scrutinize that. And here's the other trick to this location change form. We require that the schedule be the same from week to week. In other words, we can't have Johnny or Susie at one location one week and another location the next week on Wednesday and Thursday, but then the third week it changes to Friday and Monday. And not to confuse you, but that's the reason for the consistent schedule week to week. Because if it confuses you, and from what I said, it confuses schools, it confuses bus drivers. So the consistency is very important for us to maintain the safety of your students.
Well, there's simply no way to program a bus route with any consistency if you have that kind of wild and wacky schedule at one household, much less a couple of dozen at bigger schools. There's just no way to pull that off.
That's exactly right.
So we put some onus on the community and on the parents, to get things squared away in as consistent a fashion as they can, and make the necessary adjustments. Okay, we're almost out of time. Do the bus driver thing again. Your bus driver thing.
We, again, are very actively hiring bus drivers. It really is a great job. It's a great department. It gives people an opportunity to give back to their community, retirees, parents, firefighters, people who are on shift work. It's a great opportunity for you to add to your income and not be tied to something 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You can be a substitute and remain a substitute. There are opportunities available for retirees that might love to take groups of children and their teachers to Annapolis and Washington and Baltimore and to great events, and they drive them there and make sure that they get to all their destinations. That's a really great opportunity. And there's also many bus routes that are available for drivers to make their own, and be able to give back to children and make a difference in kids' lives. And bus drivers really do. They start and end the day. The children start and end the day with bus drivers. So in order for you to learn more about that, on July 23rd, Thursday, July 23rd, at 820 Commonwealth Avenue, the Transportation Department, we will be having a transportation job fair. It's not for anything else except recruitment for bus drivers. Call the HR department, 301-766-2802, and talk to Peggy Keplinger, and she'll schedule you for an interview on that day, an on-site interview, the day of the job fair. Bring your driving record, go online in advance, and start your application. If you don't get it completed, we'll help you at that time, and we really invite you to come and take advantage of this opportunity. It'll put you on the fast track.
Very good. Got to go for today. Appreciate your appearances. Lots of information jammed into one show today. Barb Scotto is our supervisor of transportation. Janice Howells, our coordinator of school health, and Kandi Shirey is here from Boonesboro Elementary School to run us through school enrollment, the school registration process. Today's show has been sponsored by Citizen Corps of Washington County. They'll be back with us again next month. We're here the third Thursday of the month. It's a partnership between WJEJ and Washington County Public Schools.